So I've known Patrick pretty much my whole life since I moved here since Michigan, and there's a couple kids when you grow up that you just memorize their house phone number because that's how you talk to them. And Patrick was one of those like four kids that I just knew his phone number because I grew up with him. I'd pretty much go over to your house every time that I wasn't at somebody else's house or with him. And a good memory is a fifth grade science camp, and we all headed out, and there were a couple different rooms, and I was in a room with Patrick, and I knew that Patrick had a history of sleepwalking and sleep talking and stuff like that, so I knew that this was gonna be a fun trip. And well, as you know, at the first or second night, one of the nights, he's on the top or bottom bunk, I don't even know, and all of a sudden you just hear a thud, and it's Patrick. He rolled out of the bed and he he fell straight onto the floor, and then he gets up, and his favorite sport was baseball, as you know, and just starts rambling on about baseball. No, why'd you throw that pitch? That's not right. We were like, Patrick, you all right? You all right? And he's just completely asleep, had no idea what's going on. And next morning we talked to him, and he just had no idea what happened. And Patrick's just a kid that you kind of want to look up to. He may not be the most athletic or strongest or, I don't know, smartest, but he's outgoing and just like the greatest person you can meet. And every time you see him, either he has a smile on his face or he puts a smile on your face just looking at him. And he always put a smile on my face with everything he did.
So I've known Patty since sixth grade when I moved to Newport, and he was one of my first friends at Anderson. One of the first kids to invite me, to play baseball with him at recess, all of the above. Like, such an inviting friend, such a great kid. And then, we became good friends where I'd hang out with him most weekends. He was one of my only friends. I was still trying to get to know the area and everything. And then, kind of grew apart 8th grade or so. But then when it came to freshman baseball, the next year, I feel like we got a lot closer again, where, awesome teammates, we're both catchers, and it was like we just got a lot of time together, me, him, and Nathan especially, where just everybody else is doing stuff in practice, taking ground balls, we're working with each other, throwing blocks, all of the above. Those were all great, but for me, my favorite memory with him was definitely when we went to Big Bear with Zach Green, his dad, and Patty. It was so funny, such a great time. Remember on the car ride up there, Zach and we were playing, the music of the day. We were playing rap, we were playing all the popular music at the time, and Patty just really wasn't into it. He was getting mad. He's like, Zach, stop playing these songs, they're terrible, all this stuff. And then finally Mr. Green takes the aux cord from him and starts playing these old 80s songs. And Zach and I are just like, we've never heard these before. Patty knows all the words, singing along to them, and having a great time. It was just the weirdest thing, but it was the funniest thing. And then obviously we get to the mountain, we get a snowboard for a whole day. Getting to see him go off jumps, fall, all this type of stuff was just so great. It was one of the best days in recent memory for me, for sure. Patty's one of my best friends. Really sad to have lost him.
One day when I was with Patty, we usually worked out about 3 times a week, and for the past 4 months. And one day this was about a week after he got his car, and he was driving into the parking lot, and no one was there. Absolutely no one was there. And he chose to park right next to a huge pole. So he drove in there, acting all happy, oh yeah, hey, got my car, all this. I was like, hey Patty, what's up? Parks right next to the pole, there's no cars, it's not a tight space. And he goes and he just inching this, and I just hear a big I just heard that. I was like, oh gosh, what is this? And I go and see his car, and there's just a huge scratch there. So I was like, oh, Patty, what do we do and all this stuff? So he takes off his shirt, tries to buff it out, do all that. I was like, dude, you are screwed. He goes, oh my gosh, my parents are gonna kill me. He was freaking out. So I don't know, I just thought that was a cool story that I would share. So Thank you.
In preschool, you always see Patty and I running around with Nerf guns and camo shirts. I've seen in many pictures. And I think one of my still most fond memories of Patty in preschool was we wanted to be like paratroopers. I don't know what it was, but we at school we went into a teacher's room and took plastic bags. I think they're just plastic like grocery bags. And we're like, oh, we can put our arms in them and we can jump off the top of the jungle gym and like they'll work as parachutes. And so like we did that. We'd run into class. We'd be like, can we have some plastic bags? And we jumped off the jungle gym and we were like, wow, like it actually works. And I remember we did that for like 2 or 3 days and we're like, this is like the coolest thing ever. Like we're gonna be like paratroopers when we're older. And then I remember one day like I was sitting with Patty and we're like, do we want to do it again? He's like, yeah, but Kyle, I don't think it actually works. Like I don't think these plastic bags are actually doing anything. I'm like, maybe you're right. And I remember we were just sitting there for like 3 minutes, like what do we do now? And that's definitely the funniest, goofiest thing I can think of when I think of Patty.
In 8th grade, we went on a trip to Knott's Berry Farm, and before that, I didn't really know Patrick that well, but we were seated together next to each other on the bus, which is when I really got to know who he was. I don't think neither of us, neither of us really knew each other, but we kind of just started talking immediately. And even though we were different he was the more athletic type and I was not, and we still managed to hit it off kind of and bond over the same things. We both talked about, we both had kind of the same friends, but we both didn't go out as much as we wanted to. And it was just kind of the general high school stuff that we like to talk about. But I ended up spending that day at Knott's Berry Farm with him. And hold on. He seemed really cheerful the entire time. I never saw him without a smile. The entire day we were there, he always seemed excited about whatever we were doing. Whenever we would meet up with someone, he was saying yes to every idea. He seemed like he was really having fun, regardless of what we were doing, and he could just make fun out of any situation that we were in. And that's what I really liked about him, is that he really just tried to find the most fun in anything that he could. And that was something that I guess I never really grasped when I was 14 or 15 in 8th grade. That I think something that Patrick taught me was just to find the best in life and just to find, whatever makes you happy out of any situation and focus on that. And it wasn't even himself that he was always focused on. It was always other people too. Even after that, whenever I was at lunch or anything, I wasn't really a part of too many conversations or anything like that, and that never really, it never really occurred to anyone else. But Patrick always cared, and he would strike up a conversation with me, and I would strike up a conversation with him, and it's like other people can ask you how your day is, and they won't care, but Patrick says it, and it has meaning behind it, and he really wants to know, like, how are you doing? How's your day been? It's something that Patrick always had, is he always cared about other people around him, and not like face value kind of as a greeting, but as really like an inquiry of how are you doing? So that's always something I remembered fondly of him, is that he always, he always cared about other people. Yeah, he always cared about other people.
Hello, I'm Karif Bird, and I'm here to talk about someone that is always going to be very near and dear to me, no matter what the circumstance or what has happened or transpired in the past couple months. I just want to first say that, he was a kid that I worked with, a kid that I've known for a long time. I've known his family for a while, but it was more than just a person that I worked with. He was a friend, he was family. He was a very hardworking kid. I'll go the rest of my life and I'll always, wish that I had, been able to do more for him. And I do truly love him, and I'll always miss him. Probably the one thing that'll stick out with me about Patrick was, maybe about 2 weeks before, everything took place. He had come to train with me, and he had gotten in an accident on the way over. Well, not an accident, but it was more of a fender bender with just one car, though. He ran into the pole in the parking lot, and the whole time he was worried about. He ran to the pole, and the whole time he was just concerned about, Creep, what do I do? What do I do? I said, well, when you get home, just tell your parents. No one got hurt. It's just a little scratch. Although I hadn't seen it at that point yet. The kid just ran down and says, hey, Patrick ran to the pole. I don't know what he was thinking. He just got too close to it and kind of scraped it a little bit. And he was more worried about, Creep, my parents they're gonna be so mad at me. And I said, well, do I tell them tonight? I said, Patrick, just go home and be honest with your parents. That's all you have to do is honest. There's nothing you can do about taking it back. You didn't hit another car. It's just a little simple little ding. It honestly and truthfully, it happens to all of us. We're all gonna have little accidents in cars, but no other cars involved. No one was hurt. You're okay. Trust me, you'll be fine. So he was okay for about 2 minutes. And then he went back to Creef, but what do I do? My dad's he's gonna yell at me. I say, Patrick, look, just tell them. He said, well, then he got to the point where, do I tell them tonight? I said, well, and then me being me, trying to help him out because I felt bad for him, and probably not the best advice to give a young kid. I said, well, who's taking you? How you getting to school tomorrow? He says, I'm riding with Brandon. I said, well, if you riding with Brandon, I said, well, wait a minute. So Brandon's driving. I said, you might want to be careful because what side is it on? He said it was on the driver's side. So Brandon's going to see it. He said, yeah. I said, well, then he's going to yell at me. And it got to the point where he was more concerned about what Brando was going to do to him than his own parents. And it just kind of showed just the love that those two had for each other and how much he actually really looked up to his older brother. And then that just goes to show you what type of older brother Brando was, that he had that much respect for him to not want to disappoint Brando. And so finally he got to the point where he just was like, well, what do I do? What do I do? I said, look, Patrick, just tell your parents, okay? It's going to be okay. They love you. They're going to love you. It's just a car, man. And it's not like you were driving erratic and switching lanes and you ran to a pole on the freeway. It's okay. It's all good. And he was just so disappointed. So we got done with the workout, and but I started teasing him a little bit. I was like, well, did the pole move or something? Did it slide to the left or whatever? And he just kept looking at me like, he just kept giving me this look. He said, Creep, I hate you right now. I said, Patrick, it's okay, man. Just relax, lighten up. And finally he started to smile and he started to laugh a little bit, and then goes out to his car. He leaves out the building before I do, and I walk upstairs maybe a couple minutes later, and he's got a rag, and he's got a wet rag, and he's trying to buff it off. I'm like, Patrick, I go look, I said, Patrick, just go home. It's okay. I said, and he looks at me and says, Kareem, I said, Patrick, look, it's not even that bad. Honestly, it's a buff, okay? It's a $100 fix. Trust me. You'll be fine. No big deal. It'll be okay. So finally, I called his mom, and I got in the car, and I called his mom. I said, look, I said, Mrs. Turner, here's the thing. I said, before you do anything, Patrick's okay. Nothing's wrong. He just got too close to the light pole in the parking lot, and he ran into it. But he was so concerned about, you guys being upset with him and disappointed. I said, oh, no, he's okay. As long as he's fine, he's okay. That's all we're worried about. And I said, but he was so worried about what Brando was going to do, what Brando was going to do. And I know just that scenario and between those two, if I ever have two sons, I hope that their relationship is just like that, where, the older brother takes care of the little brother. You know, I hope that's something that's so rare amongst families these days. And to me, seeing that from him let me know that Brando was always looking out for his brother. And I know just being around Brando the past couple of weeks, you know, in the past month or two, just how much, you know, he misses his brother, how much we all miss him. But that right there just kind of showed me a lot about, you know, most kids would be like, no big deal, but Patrick was, you know, he didn't want to disappoint anybody. He wanted to make sure always did the right thing. That was just something to me that was just, he just always was so considerate of everyone else. And even in the letters that he wrote, it seemed like he was, you know, so considerate to everyone else, his feelings, and, you know, letting people know, you know, the future, and I want you to continue to keep going on. Like, I just, you know, again, I wish I wasn't here to say this. I wish he was here with us, but, you know, if it's anything, I would say that, you know, Patrick, you're loved. I love you. And, you know, everyone who's going to talk in this video, everyone who's in the community, has ever been around you, knows what type of person that you are and what a great guy you were. You will always be in my heart. You will always be in everyone else's hearts. You know, when I have kids one day, if I ever do, they will know about you. They will know what type of person that you were. They will know how considerate you were of everyone else. You know, you represented a lot of things that I wish more people represented as far as a human being that you were. And, you know, you're looking down on us. We miss you. We love you. And just, I don't want to, I got to be careful because I don't want to cry on this video. But Patrick, I love you, man. And just thank you so much for the time that you were here, the time that you gave us, and the memories that you gave me. And I can honestly say that I'm a better man because of you. God bless you. I love you, and you'll always be in my heart. Thank you.
Well, I know the Churners from a long time ago. I was lucky enough to be drafted from Mr. Turner to be on their Little League team years back, and ever since then, Brandon and I have been great friends. And during that time on the team, I had the wonderful opportunity of meeting an amazing guy, Patrick Turner. Patrick was always just a presence in the dugout when he was there, and he wasn't on the team, but you could tell that he was a big member of the team. Anytime after we would go out to go eat, Patrick would always come along with us, and he was just like another player, just another person on the team. He was a great kid, and the one thing I always remember from Patrick is just like the smile that he had to like lit up the room, and I know that smile affected people in different ways, and made each person he affected their lives better in different ways. And I remember when we would always go out afterwards, just Patrick's laugh was so contagious, and that anything that was said, even if it wasn't even necessarily funny, he would just always be smiling and always be happy and always laughing, because that's the person that he was. He didn't have any bad thoughts, bad memories or anything. He was just always just the happy guy that was there and making the room just so filled with so much joy and everything. Patrick was also the most caring person, always asking how you were doing. I remember not too long ago, earlier in this year, I had been struggling with baseball personally and trying to get back on the team and everything, and I had ran into Patrick in the senior parking lot, and he had stopped for a second. He had asked me how my day was going and how baseball was going for me, and at that time I was really down on myself about baseball because I wasn't able to play, and it had been such a big part of my life. But I really think about that time that I talked to Patrick as something that like changed the momentum for me, and like what I wanted to do in my sport, and like where I wanted to go, because someone cared, and someone like Patrick who could like just change how I felt just like that, just because he showed that he cared when other people didn't necessarily care. I'll never forget that part of him, and I'll never forget the amazing soul that he was and the amazing smile that he had, just everything about him that changed my life and so many others. Good.
So now you can do that there. Just
All right, yeah.
Patrick was.
Patrick was indescribable. He was an amazing person, amazing friend. I wish I got to know him better, but I know that how many lives he touched was amazing. And to kind of go on about something else for a second, when Mr. Turner was talking at the memorial, there's a thing that stuck with me. The dash, what Patrick could fit inside the dash was greater than other people could do in their whole entire lifetime, and I couldn't agree with that more. I've taken that on as myself.
that challenged myself to fit as much as I can in my dash, because I know that it doesn't matter how many years you're here, it matters how much you can fit in that dash. And I don't think anyone has ever fit as much as Patrick did in that dash. And I'm going to hold that with me forever. And when I wake up every morning and I want to do something, I'm going to go for it, because you just never know. Thank you.
Hey Turners, so about a good kid, Patrick. I thank God every day for giving me the opportunity to become close with him over this past year, and being able to put him under my wing during this football season. And every morning, me and Devin would go to Brandon's car and see him, and tickle and hug him, and hearing his laugh just made my day every day. And he'll be missed, but he'll always be in our hearts. And so thankful that Brandon's become one of my best friends, a guy who I could look to at my darkest times and at my greatest times. And I'm so happy to be part of you guys, and thank you for everything.
Hi, Turner family. And talk about Patrick. Patrick was a good friend at Anderson. He always smiled. He always made me laugh. I used to always mess with him, and he forgave me every time I messed with him. There's one memory I've had with him. I was with Sam and Cooper and Patrick, and we did a 2-on-2 basketball. And it was me and Patrick against Sam and Cooper. The game was really close, and it was down to the end, and Patrick hit the game winner, and never seen him so happy. It was so funny. It's the way he dribbled the ball, the way he played, it was just so funny. The way he ran, it was just really funny. Patrick was just such a good kid, always lighthearted, always had something positive to say. Never shy, and yeah.
I didn't really know Patty until I got to CDM. I mean, I knew of him, but I just didn't know like how cool he was or how fun he was. Right when I got to CDM, there was just an instant bond of, us, and we sat at lunch together and laughed and laughed and laughed. He would always laugh at everybody's jokes, and it just like made the table at lunch so much better. One memory I have of him especially was at Los Gatos for freshman football. Me and Patty were playing tag with Hudson Roth, and Hudson was it, and me and Patty were sprinting around like hooligans around the hotel, and we quickly ran into Patty's room and closed it right away, and the door completely snapped off, and literally the door fell off of its like hinges, and we completely blamed it on Huddy and had Huddy pay the hotel for it. It was like $400 or something like that. And for the rest of the trip and pretty much the whole season, we would just like joke around about that, and Huddy never found out. And I don't know, it was just something about Patty that was so special to everybody, and I don't know, I just think he was one of the best people I've ever met.
Patrick was a joyful kid. I never really knew him that well, but I just knew that every single time people would be around him, people would want to always be around him.
So, Patty, I moved here like a year and a half ago from California, and I moved from Colorado, and then I moved to Newport Beach. And like the first day of school, when I saw Patty, I didn't really know him, but I knew he kind of had like hair like me, so I went around him, and his laugh and his smile was so contagious. He was such a fun guy, and I really, really enjoyed being around him, and I really miss him.
I got to know Patty in 7th grade. I remember we used to sit at the same lunch area. I just remember him just being super funny, and he was just like, when I first met him, he just like told me a joke right away, and I knew that I was gonna be like pretty decent friends with this kid. And then we became pretty good friends, I would say. And the thing I really remember about Patty that I really like is me and him just kind of had the same type of humor. Like Patty was like, whether it be at football practice or at lunch or like even outside of school, I could just say like the dumbest things that no one else would find funny, like to Patty, and he would just find it hysterical, and me and him would just like laugh and laugh like forever. It'd be so funny. Yeah, I just found out that me and him just really had similar humor, and in a couple words, Patrick was one of a kind. He was unique, for sure, yeah. Okay.
Patrick was really caring for everybody and everybody around him, and I've had plenty of memories with him and Brandel and what we've done. But my favorite memory was when I was tutoring one day with Mike Beck, and we FaceTimed Brandel and Patrick about Brandel's girl that he had, and then Patrick was running with the phone. Brandel was chasing him around the kitchen while Patrick was running with the phone, and it was just a good time. We were all laughing. It probably lasted like 5 minutes about, but it's probably my favorite time with Patrick. With Patrick, but favorite memory of Patrick, because I just saw him laughing and saw everybody laughing.
One of my favorite memories of Patrick was whenever we would do Monday morning speakers in class, he would always share a story about him and his brothers and how they always got in fights and how he hated that he was roommates with them, but he would always wrap the story back around to how he loved them and how he always cherished his brothers and the memories they made together.
And then, so I got the luck of growing up with Patrick and having him as a big part of my childhood. So it was always fun having pancake breakfasts at St. Mark's together and just getting to always hang out on the sidelines of our brothers' soccer games and just messing around, always
eating donuts.
Yeah, and having fun together. And we always had a great time no matter what we were doing, just made the most of everything.
Yeah.